Today on Steelers Talk, we have the latest surrounding Brandon Aiyuk, and apparently his trade market is quote-unquote heating up thanks to a report from an ESPN reporter. Then we'll go into a different report claiming that the Steelers are not interested in Michael Thomas, the free agent receiver. And then we'll finish up today's show with a report that Kenny Pickett, to this point in the offseason program, was outplaying what Russell Wilson and Justin Fields have put on the field in shorts to this point. I'll give you guys my thoughts on that report at the end of today's show, so make sure you guys stick around. But before we get into today's news and rumors coverage, make sure you click that subscribe button and help us get to the 54,000 club here at Chat Sports. We're 27 subscribers away from 54,000 subs, and there's only 6 other channels in the entire company here at Chat Sports that are a part of the 54K club. And today, if we can get 27 more subs on today's video, we will become the 7th show in Chat Sports history to reach that milestone. So new viewers, we're counting on you right now. Help us get to 54,000 subscribers. I tell you what, guys, you click that subscribe button for a week and you let it ride out and you watch our videos every day. I promise you, you're not going to want to click that thing again. Okay, now we get to Brandon Aiyuk here, where things are apparently heating up, according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. There are reports that the trade market has ramped up in recent days and that we could see a trade in the days to come. This is what Fowler had to say. The 49ers had some trade opportunities around the draft, and I think there are other teams that are willing to pay Aiyuk what he wants. I do believe that. Maybe not for a first-round pick in a trade, but I think they would do it under certain circumstances. Now listen, man, Fowler isn't the only one reporting this either. When it comes to more of a Steelers perspective here, Ray Fittipaldo from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette had this to say about the Steelers' interest in the San Francisco wide receiver. There are legs to this. I had a source within the Steelers tell me this back in March, that this was a thing and that there was some interest in Brandon Aiyuk. I think it's more than a talk show type of thing. I was told there was some interest on both sides 4 months ago. It hasn't happened yet, but that doesn't mean it won't happen before the start of this season. Now, when it comes to these most recent reports, I have a couple of takeaways. Number one, teams out there are definitely willing to pay for Aiyuk, but maybe, a first-round pick is going to be a bit rich for them. I think that maybe a second-round pick, maybe a couple second-round picks might be more of the price tag here for Brandon Aiyuk, especially because whichever team trades for him, they're going to have to pay him that $30 million per season contract. And then also, there are a number of teams that could be in the mix here. It's not just the Steelers that could look to add this all-pro receiver here in Brandon Aiyuk. Other teams that have been linked to Aiyuk, the Washington Commanders in particular, with Jaden Daniels. He is Brandon Aiyuk's best friend. They're buddies going all the way back to school at Arizona State all those years back. The Patriots have been linked to Aiyuk, even going back into the draft process. The Colts and Jaguars are also a couple of teams from the AFC South that could use receiver help as well. Now, when it comes to the Steelers, right, and the Steelers have a pretty darn good team, so maybe their second-round pick isn't as valuable to the 49ers as, say, the Commanders or the Patriots' second-round pick. So how do the Steelers win this bidding war if the 49ers are, in fact, dealing Brandon Aiyuk? And the way that you do it is that I think you have to give the 49ers an upgrade on the offensive line, all right? Because right now their offensive line is pretty good, but it's definitely not elite. And I think with the Steelers, they got a guy in James Daniels right now on the last year of his contract. They just drafted Mason McCormick, who seems to be the future of that position. And I think that maybe the way the Steelers can get a leg up here is if they add James Daniels as a part of the deal. So this is what I would expect a trade to look like somewhat here. Brandon Aiyuk and Aaron Banks, one of their starting interior offensive linemen. So you pretty much switch starting right guards here if you're the Steelers and 49ers. Banks is somebody that can play right away, and he'd probably battle it out with Mason McCormick. And then you give the 49ers a second-round pick in 2025, a third-round pick in 2026, and then you give them that upgrade on the offensive line in James Daniels to help them try to win a Super Bowl this year with Aiyuk out of the building. Now, let me know down there in the comment section, do you think that this is something that could actually happen? And if you were GM Omar Khan and this trade was offered to you, would you take it? Type A for accept or D for decline. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. Shifting over to Michael Thomas here, another receiver that I have speculated the Steelers should maybe go out and get in free agency. According to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's Jerry Dulac, the Pittsburgh Steelers are not interested in bringing in Michael Thomas this season. This is what Dulac had to say about it. The Steelers have not, to my knowledge, have had conversations with Thomas. And I also have been told he is not their type of receiver. So if Jerry Dulac says that Michael Thomas isn't a Steeler, I think you guys know what that means. He's probably going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, right? This is the same guy that said there was a 100% chance that Diontae Johnson would be a Steeler this season. A week later, he was traded to the Carolina Panthers. I mean, Jerry Dulac doesn't know what the frick he's talking about, guys. He doesn't have insider knowledge, and if he does, the Steelers are literally just feeding him garbage to put out to the masses, these smoke screens, right? So I don't trust a word that Jerry Dulac says about who the Steelers are interested in, who they're not interested in. But all kidding aside here about Dulac's incompetence, okay? If Dulac is correct and Pittsburgh has no interest in Michael Thomas, that may mean that they have their eye on a bigger fish, which could point to Brandon Aiyuk, right? If they're not looking for a Michael Thomas in free agency, that could point to, hey, we want to get an even better receiver in Brandon Aiyuk, and we're willing to be patient to try to get a deal done with San Francisco. Now, personally, guys, if a deal for Aiyuk doesn't come through, I would be okay with signing Thomas. The Steelers could certainly use another bigger receiver to help them in the red zone, all these different things. And listen, he's not a deep threat, and it sounds like the theme among these Steelers receivers this year is you have to be a deep threat because you know Russell Wilson is going to be throwing that deep ball. So maybe Michael Thomas isn't exactly their cup of tea. I could see that being the case. But after losing Diontae Johnson, you're really missing like a true route runner type in this offense. Michael Thomas would provide that for you. He's a big target. He's good on third downs, good in the red zone. Personally, if you can't get Brandon Aiyuk, I would be okay with giving Michael Thomas a contract. But what would you do? Which wide receiver would you add? Brandon Aiyuk, remember you have to trade what you have to trade to get him, plus you have to pay him, or would you rather give Michael Thomas kind of a lower level contract in free agency? Type BA for Brandon Aiyuk, MT for Michael Thomas, or if you'd get neither of them and you wouldn't add anybody, or you'd rather go out and get somebody else, type O down there in the comment section and let me know what you would do. And now we haven't talked about Kenny Pickett here on the show in a while, but Mark Kaboly from The Athletic said that Kenny Pickett looked better last offseason during OTAs than Russell Fields did this year, leading some Steelers fans to be like, see, I told you the Steelers made a huge mistake getting rid of Kenny Pickett. He is absolutely outplaying these guys. Well, this is what Mark Kaboly said in terms of the Pickett versus Russell Fields discussion. Kenny was pretty flawless all throughout training camp and all through OTAs and minicamp last year. Kenny was on a different level in April, May, June, and obviously in August. He fooled me pretty good. I mean, he was absolutely flawless. I would say he was much better than what we saw out of Wilson and Fields this year. Now listen, man, Kenny was really good when he was just wearing shorts. He didn't have to worry about opposing defensive linemen hitting him, and that goes into the training camp portions as well. He was a king of playing the position when he knew that there wasn't somebody coming after his head. But then when he got into the season, things completely went erratic. His accuracy completely fell off a cliff. He completely gets spooked in the pocket when there's pressure coming after him. He would leave clean pockets after a certain amount of time. And, he just couldn't handle the pressure of the NFL and being a franchise quarterback. And it didn't help that he was in a system with Matt Canada and in this offense that just wasn't doing him any favors. But then Mason Rudolph came in and played even better than him, and he was his third string backups in the same offense that he was operating. So I don't want to hear any excuses for Kenny Pickett, and I absolutely think that the Steelers made the right decision. Bringing in Russell Wilson, and then when Kenny Pickett decided he didn't want to be here anymore, trading him away. You got a pretty decent haul for him from the Eagles, and then you trade for Justin Fields for just a conditional 6th-round pick. That is an absolutely phenomenal job by Omar Khan, and we can just take a look at the numbers last year from these quarterbacks that the Steelers have brought in. Last year, Russell Wilson, the on-target percentage, almost 4 points higher than Kenny Pickett's. Over a half yard more per attempt last year. And again, Russell Wilson wasn't in a good situation there in Denver, right? The receivers weren't great. His running backs were hurt. He was getting sacked a lot. The offense wasn't a fit for him schematically. And the touchdown percentage, almost 5 points higher than Kenny Pickett's. Obviously, the passer rating way higher, and then the overall points above replacement was way higher as well. Kenny Pickett was only worth 6 points for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. Now we take a look at Justin Fields versus Kenny Pickett. And, it's pretty much the same story. The only thing that's a little bit different here is that Pickett, his points above replacement was actually 6.0, not 3.3. That's my bad right there, producer Jack. But at the end of the day, it's still not very good, man. Like, Justin clearly outperformed Kenny last year, and it's not like it was a perfect situation in Chicago last year either, right? And then you look at his competition within the same building, within the same offense. Mason Rudolph made Kenny Pickett look like a chump last year when he came in and saved the season within this same offensive structure, had a quarterback rating of 118.0. That was the highest in football last year. And he played pretty decently in the playoff game as well, at least good enough to have the Steelers within one score against the Bills in Buffalo. Kenny Pickett wouldn't have even sniffed that. Mason Rudolph was the third-string quarterback on this team last year, and he was better than Kenny Pickett on the field in a regular season football game than KP was. And also, Kaboli was saying, Pickett was way better than Russ and Fields. Maybe Fields struggled with accuracy and mental processing a bit, but Russ is completely on top of everything, man. The communication is really impressive. The accuracy is there. The arm strength is definitely still there, and the arm talent. So, when he says, that Pickett was far ahead of Russell Wilson, I don't know what he's talking about, because Russell Wilson has looked great to this point. Now, again, it's football in shorts, all right? It's not real football. So we're going to have to see what Russ looks like when there's guys coming after his head, because we learned last year that Kenny Pickett, in those kind of safer situations, he was fine. But then when he got into the arena of, the gladiator arena here that is NFL football, where edge rushers are coming to take your head off, I mean, that's where you really know what a guy has at this position. We're going to find out what Russ has when the season eventually gets here. Now, let me know down there in the comments section, did the Steelers make a mistake in replacing Kenny Pickett? You guys know my answer. I love that they made this decision to go for it now and get rid of Pickett, but let me know what you guys think. Give me a yes or no. Was it a mistake to replace Pickett? And before I go here, I do have some good news for all the Steelers fans out there when it comes to the Cam Heyward situation, where Cam went out there, and he said before, and he kind of joked around, I got family in Cleveland. My wife's family is from Cleveland. Maybe I'll go to the Browns if I don't re-sign with the Steelers in future years. Well, Cam took to Twitter, and he's like, bro, I ain't going to Cleveland. My wife about threw up when she saw the report. It was a joke in passing. So listen, man, Cam Heyward's not going to be going to the Cleveland Browns, and that's definitely a good thing. We actually talked about Cam Heyward and that report going to the Browns in a different video. I'll put the link to that in the comments and description of today's show. But it is good news, guys, because even if the Steelers don't get a long-term deal done with Cam Heyward this offseason, or he doesn't come back next offseason, it's nice to know that he's keeping in mind that he's not going to go to Cleveland, all right? He's not going to go to one of the biggest rivals of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If anything, he's probably going to go to like an NFC team, and he's going to go to a contender in the NFC, something like that. So it still remains to be seen if Cam Heyward's going to be here for the rest of his career, but it's nice to know that he likely won't be a Cleveland Brown ever within his career. Okay, guys, again, a little bit of a reminder here that if you enjoyed today's content, that you should click that subscribe button to help us get to the 54K club here at Chat Sports. It's been a long time coming. Help us get within the top 7 channels of this company right now by clicking that subscribe button. And until next time, here we go, Steelers.